Hello and welcome! I am the Godless Engineer, and today I'm sitting down with Jeremy. He's a friend of mine. Recently, I shared this video that I found on YouTube about this guy, and he was, he had been diagnosed with antisocial personality disorder, and, he had been, put in jail for almost killing his dad. And then he got out and he found Jesus, or he found Jesus while he was in jail. I don't know. Here's a short little clip about it that explains it a little bit better.
I was in high school biology when evolutionary theory was really laid out for us. Species develop new characteristics, new traits, and then those can actually eventually take over. And so I concluded that maybe I had reached a higher stage of humanity where I wasn't held back by emotions the way other people were. And so I came to regard all these little rules that people tell you to follow as kind of brainwashing me. And I decided to kill my dad. And I decided to do it in a brutal fashion, not a gunshot or anything. I was going to do it with a hammer. When I walked up to my dad, I had a hammer in my hand, and I hit him in the head 7 or 8 times with a ball-peen hammer until I thought he was dead, and I just left. Instead of taking me to the police or anything, she took me to a psychiatric hospital. They made a report based on the time that I was there, and it said antisocial personality disorder. Eventually, Virginia had them remove me from the psychiatric hospital and take me to jail. Since my dad survived, I was convicted of malicious wounding. I have to say I was impressed with Jesus. I went from thinking that I'm the best person in the world to thinking that I'm the worst person in the world. The question came up, either I'm stuck like this, or there's someone out there who can deal with this, who, out of anyone, had the ability to change, radically change, severely messed up people. It's Jesus or it's nothing. It's Jesus or there's just no hope. I bowed down and I prayed and I said, God, I don't know if I'm going to believe in you tomorrow, but I believe in you right now. If you can do anything with me, you're welcome to it. This was, there was something weird going on, but it was, I didn't want to hurt anyone at that point, and just an amazing calm. I felt like I'd been physically non-stop brawling all my life, and that I finally could just sit down and rest. Between jail and prison, I was locked up for a little over 5 years. I got out of prison in 2000. And started college immediately. Started arguing with a young woman who was an agnostic, and she eventually became a Christian, and we were married the following year. We have kids, and getting to watch them grow up, and given the things I've done, I should not be able to have this sort of normal life. It kind of blows me away.
Now, Jeremy here is in a unique situation in that he has also been diagnosed with ASPD, and, he's, of course, on the end that's not going to kill you with a hammer, more or less, like he'll punch you in the fucking face, if you get him in the right mood. He's not on the murderously violent end of it, but, he has been diagnosed with ASPD. So I thought that getting a secular, point of view of this would be a really good counterpoint to this guy saying that you only need Jesus, or Jesus is the only answer to this particular problem, because I know that there's got to be a lot of atheists and agnostics and secular humanists out there that struggle with these kind of things. So, hi Jeremy, how are you doing tonight?
I'm doing okay. How about yourself?
Pretty good. Now, what did you think about the video? We just watched the entire thing, not the short clip that I just showed everybody. But what were your initial thoughts about his little story there?
Either it's a propaganda piece or he's lying. There's no two ways about it. Being somebody who has ASPD, one thing that we do constantly is blame others for our problems. So to have a deity to be able to put blame, like, oh, that wasn't me, that was on God, that would be very beneficial to us. But there's also a bunch of other reasons why I think that he's probably just trying to manipulate a system. It got him out of jail 5 years earlier than it should have. So now he's got a wife and a family that he can quote. I don't know their dynamic, but chances are it's not the most loving household, because that's one thing that people with ASPD lack, is the ability to truly love others.
So do you think that that he's kind of, I guess, maybe forcing it a little bit if he is indeed sincere about it?
I think he likes the idea of God. He likes the idea of Jesus as somebody who's outside of himself that he can blame for anything that goes right or wrong. Well, he'd probably never use it if it was go right, because based upon things he said earlier in the video, he is definitely a narcissist. So I'd put him more towards a narcissistic sociopath, which their whole drive is to be the king of the world, basically. Control others through any way possible, whether it be through physical violence or manipulation, gaslighting, things like that. So,
well,
go ahead.
Sorry, go ahead.
No, I was just gonna say. So I'm starting to doubt this guy altogether.
Well, I know that I think one part of either ASPD or narcissism in general is pathological lying.
Yes.
So I mean, do you think is that your reason for thinking that he's just completely faking it in order to gain the system? That he's just that good of a liar?
Yeah, I mean, people with ASPD have been known to pass polygraph tests when they've been they've been asked their name and they've given a false answer. They've been able to do it and nothing happened on the polygraph. So, we just make a habit out of lying a lot. So,
well, with polygraphs. Well, with polygraphs and whatnot, those really just test your current biological readings and whatnot. So, I mean, if you're very adept at lying, I would suspect that you would be able to fake a polygraph really easily. Now, you also mentioned something about it being a propaganda piece. Do you think that maybe somebody is exploiting this pathological lying portion of his personality in order to sell sort of this Jesus message?
There is a small part of me that thinks that he was never a sociopath to begin with, and the story is just not true. I mean, they've never gave any evidence to this actually ever happened, other than picture of him with his wife and kids, and the rest of it was completely remade. So I don't know the guy's name. Does it mention his name?
I think it does.
So maybe I need to look up the story or something. But
yeah, it says his name is David Wood.
Okay, so I don't even know if it actually happened. That's also a big thing. Another reason why is because for sociopaths, spirituality or religion just plays absolutely no part in our lives whatsoever. We can't grasp that. For one reason or another, it's probably due to our own narcissism, but we can't just grasp fables, things that people tell us. We have to look up everything that we're told, no matter if it's factual or not. So I don't understand how he was able to delve so deeply into religion seemingly overnight. And, so that part of me seems kind of false as well.
Well, it also is kind of weird that he says, well, Jesus was raised from the dead, so therefore he's the only answer kind of logic there. Because, I mean, there's no real proof that Jesus raised from the dead. I mean, all we have is the Bible that says he was raised from the dead, and even then, you've got 4 different versions of him being raised from the dead. So it doesn't really seem to mesh with what you're saying here.
Not at all. The fact that he fell further into religion by studying the Bible in hopes to debunk a Christian means that he read the Bible and didn't go, well, this is horseshit. That he took it at face value. That is something I would never do, and I don't think anyone in my shoes would do. Yeah, I mean, we could pretend we do for personal gain, like how maybe a politician will deny global warming or climate change to appease their backers, financial backers, even though the evidence they've seen, they've got absolutely no doubt that it's true. That happens too because politicians are a big job market for psychopaths and sociopaths. But so is clergy and the media, which this guy seems to be doing both right now. So that kind of also leads me to believe that he could possibly be a sociopath of sorts. Because the reason why sociopaths like the media is because they can control the flow of information. And then also the clergy because they can get paid for saying anything. And we're storytellers. That's what we're good at. We're good at telling stories.
Well, another portion of this was him saying that, he was, he learned about evolution and then, he immediately went into this whole wild rampage of, throwing off these chains of society or something like that. Now, in your own personal experience, when you first learned about evolution, did you say like, well, fuck me, I could just go and do anything I want to?
No. Quite the opposite, in fact, because with evolution, I also learned a bit of anthropology, which allowed me to understand where human morality comes from. And even though I lack a lower sense of empathy and sympathy and guilt than most people, there's some things I won't do just because I don't want to do them. I don't want to murder people. That's not part of my personal mental disorder. I'm more of a control freak, a manipulator, and I don't physically harm people. That's not really what I'm into.
Except if they piss you off or something.
Yeah, I've gotten into bar fights before, but who hasn't?
Yeah. Well, another thing that really kind of makes me wary about this story is the sudden shift. Because you kind of identified that he had this narcissistic part of him, but he seemed to shift almost overnight from being this narcissistic guy that was all about him and only concerned with himself to, oh, now I'm not concerned with myself. I'm actually lower than dirt, and Jesus is the only one. That seems like a really radical shift for somebody with this particular disorder.
Yeah, it really is. That really shocked me too, how he said that he was able to go from being somebody who would smash their own father in the head with a hammer in less than 5 years to a family man. That makes absolutely no sense to me. Like, I don't know. Have you ever seen the show Dexter before?
Yes.
Okay, so you've heard of him refer to that dark part of him as a dark passenger, right? Most people with ASPD, we have a vice, something that we like that's a little bit taboo. Okay, in Dexter's case, it's very taboo. But we have something inside of us that it's a craving, it's an addiction. I know that people have, quote-unquote, overcome addiction with religion but by trading one addiction for another. But this is on such a deeply, I'd say, almost emotional, psychological level that it never goes away. So if he's one of those guys that likes to beat people in the head with a hammer, that's who he still is today. And I don't see that changing. If he was just a petty thief, I could understand it. Like maybe his wife earns enough that he doesn't have to steal anymore. You know what I mean? So yeah, I don't understand that. That made absolutely no sense to me.
Well, I'm kind of curious as to what the dynamic was like between him and his father for him to... not that he necessarily needed a reason, but, it just seems like, he chose his father, over his mom or anybody else. So it kind of makes me wonder, like, what was the reason for that? Because, even though, he doesn't have to have a reason, he would still, I would think, have some kind of motivation for choosing his father. Or do you not think that would apply to somebody with...
It depends on how bad his narcissism is. I'm not going to rule out the fact that he might have seen his father as the dominant figure in his life. That he was the rule setter. He was the one who grounded him or spanked him or whatever. So he thought maybe if I got dad out of the way, mom would be a pushover. I'd be fine, type of thing. So, but that doesn't really make it much sense. Like, yeah, I stole money from my dad when I was a kid when I wanted to buy something. I'll admit to that, but never once the thought of physical injury came to mind. But again, I'm on the opposite side of the spectrum than this guy supposedly was. So I don't I don't know if I can really give a good testimony to that per se. But if anything, I think it does stem from his narcissism itself.
Okay. Well, I'm kind of curious. What would you say to anybody that might be watching that might be struggling with these kind of issues? Maybe they haven't been formally diagnosed with it or something, but they're kind of relating to, what you're saying here.
Seek help professionally. Get yourself diagnosed and seek talk therapy. And I'm not even meaning like you don't even have to go to a psychologist. Just find a couple of people you can confide in and talk to about your problems. That for me was a big turning point where I was going down a bad path, and then I was able to turn myself around just by talking to people, to expressing what I was feeling that day or whatever, and being able to not act out on it. Also, try and find something worth keeping. That is a huge one. And also, jail is very boring. You don't want to go to jail. And that's if you have something like I do, you know how bad it sucks to be bored. So don't do that. Do whatever it takes to not go to jail.
Yeah, I think that's very solid advice. And then, I guess to kind of conclude this short little interview here about this video, you would say that there's probably more of a chance that he's gaining the system, or maybe not gaining the system, but I guess lying about it in general, or like that he was never really ASPD at all.
I'm not sure, but if he is definitely lying and manipulating the system for his own benefit. How much did he get paid for that video? There's financial gain. So everything that he's done since the time he went into jail, he found a benefit with aligning himself with Christianity. It's all benefited him in one way or another. Reduced sentence. He got his dad back in his life. All this stuff. He's like, all because he decided to say, "Hey, I'm a Christian now." And whether or not he believes it is irrelevant at that point. He's using it.
Well, earlier in the conversation, you had said that if he actually is ASPD and now he's a married father, it's probably not a very happy marriage or a very happy home. What would you, if you had to guess what the future might generally look like for that family, what would you might suspect? Well, and this would play into somebody not getting professional help for this particular issue and just letting it kind of fester and delude themselves into thinking, well, I can just ignore it kind of deal. Divorce
or jail. Those are basically the two options. Either he's going to act out on his impulses, not be able to control himself and do something stupid, or she's just going to get fed up with his crap because he probably can't hold a job. That's another big thing for ASPD. We don't hold jobs for that long because we're very unmotivated people. It's hard to motivate us. So yeah, I can't really see it going any other way than downhill. If he does have it, by the time those kids are in high school, I guarantee the marriage will be over if he's not getting really good help.
Well, I would be very concerned for any sons that they may have because, with him being very narcissistic and whatnot and wanting to be in control, I know when, kids get into those teenage years and on up, they try to do this whole struggle for power kind of thing. And I would be very concerned about the kids at that point, and him seeing them as a threat almost, maybe. I'm not a psychologist, but I've seen enough Criminal Minds.
Yeah, it'd be kind of like a lion, and one of his cubs, in the future trying to come back and take the pride from him. It could go down like that, very much so. But instead, he's bigger, so he puts the kid through a wall. So, that is definitely a concern.
Well, Jeremy, I appreciate you joining me for this little bit, talking to me about this video. It's easy to call bullshit on these things, but I feel like it's better to know, some of the more intricacies behind it, and what better from somebody that knows, intimately the problems with ASPD and these kind of issues. So I really appreciate you coming on here and talking to me about this.
Thank you very much for having me.
Well, everybody, I hope you have a nice night, day, weekend, whenever. I hope you will go down below, hit the like button, and consider subscribing if you like this interview. And I'll see you guys later.